I cannot believe that it is already March. Wait, no, May. Hello plant pals and welcome to another video. My name is Kenna and I'm so excited to have you here with me today. Today we're going to be talking about some of the plants that made it onto my favorites list throughout the month of April. And yes, April is over already. It is May and I cannot believe it, but I still wanted to share with you guys some of the plants that have caught my attention throughout the month and why. So I hope you guys enjoy this kind of video. Give me a thumbs up if you want to see more and let's get into it. So I do want to start off with this gorgeous plant. This is my Philodendron Florida Beauty. And this is one of my favorite plants in my collection, hands down, and has been since the day that I got her. And she's been putting out fairly consistent growth for me. She was a cutting when I got her, so it took a while to actually root up and start growing. And then when she did, she put out some gorgeous leaves. So the first leaf she put out was this one. And as you can see, it is a fairly, there we go. As you can see, it is a fairly adult leaf, fairly mature. This is the second leaf that she put out here. And this one is a little smaller, but still kind of like the same stage of maturity. And it's still very pretty. It's just, probably suffered from a little bit of underwatering, I will say. And also she has a much smaller root system than when this first leaf was developed, because this was actually a top cut. This was the leaf that was developing. So her root system is a lot smaller when that one was developing. So I think that's probably why this is so much smaller. And then we have this most recent leaf. So this one is not as mature, I will say, and is still a little bit bigger than this one, but not quite as large as this one. However, the variegation on this leaf is stunning. This one has not hardened off yet. As you can see, she still has that kind of lime color, but this entire leaf almost is just super variegated. And I am so excited to see how this leaf is going to harden off. I hope that she'll keep it. I mean, she has a fair amount of green in her other leaves, and then this one, obviously, the first leaf at the bottom is a half moon. Actually, it's a little bit more than a half moon. So I think this one should be okay, but I'm really excited to see her putting out such beautiful variegated leaves. And we do have another one in caterpillar right now, and it looks like it's coming from another super variegated side of the stem. So I'm really interested to see what happens. But yes, I wanted to share this one with you guys because I am so excited. And once again, this is the newest leaf on my Philodendron Florida Beauty. So as I'm kind of going through, I wanted to switch back and forth between like a larger plant and a smaller plant. So next up is going to be my Hoya Fungii. And if you see like the sawdust stuff kind of on some of my plants, it actually is probably sawdust. It is the medium that the Amblysia Swarovski, I think is what they're called, the beneficial mites came in, and I sprinkled it all over most of my plants to try to control any pests. So that is kind of on some of them, and I don't want to rinse it off for fear of rinsing off the mites. So we're gonna kind of stick with it, but this is my Hoya Fungii. This one took forever to grow for me. It had just this first leaf down here when I got her, and it has started actually vining, putting out some really gorgeous leaves. I don't know which one is my favorite. I think it might actually be this one down here so far. As you can see, this leaf is just so pretty. It has a good amount of splash kind of popping in through there. And I'm really excited. This one I was getting kind of worried about it ever growing, honestly, because it was just a single leaf cutting and it hadn't really done anything, but it really has taken off and I'm so happy that it has. I really love just kind of like the veining on this leaf, or on these leaves now, I guess, on these leaves. And the shape is also just really cool. And I'm really interested to see what happens as it starts vining. I've seen a few people with Hoya Fungii and I've seen them get fairly large, and I know that they can start taking up space really quick. So I'm really interested to see what happens, and I'm very excited to have this little guy in my collection. And again, this is my Hoya Fungii. Super cute little vine it's got there too. So next up is one you guys probably watched me unbox, or at least I told you guys that I unboxed pretty recently. This is my Philodendron Gloriosum, also known as Thaumatophyllum Spruceanum. This is one that was recently reclassified as a Thaumatophyllum, if I remember correctly, and I wanted it since it was a Goeldii, personally. I really love the way these leaves look when they're mature. They have these really kind of unique lobes that are separated, and they have the little connecting bits at the top. So these are all like almost separate leaves, but not quite. And when they're mature, they start looking like fingers, and it's kind of creepy, but kind of cool. And this leaf right here, this newest leaf, is the first one to put out more of those lobes. So rather than just the 3, it actually has 5 full lobes on it. So we are getting closer and closer to the day where it's gonna look all creepy fingered, and I'm really excited for it. But I actually didn't even realize until the other day that this leaf even had all those lobes. It has been a month of, I don't want to say plant neglect, because I do still care for my plants. I do still, try to water them and make sure that they're taken care of properly. But it has been one of those months where I felt like I had no time to do anything beyond just the basics. So because of that, I didn't even get to see this new leaf. I saw it kind of coming in, and then I just didn't see it again after that until the other day when, again, I noticed that it had multiple lobes. So I'm really excited to see kind of what keeps happening, and this is really good because it also lets me know that this plant is happy where it is, because I was a little worried about that. It's not in a super highlight situation. It's actually on that shelf back there in that west facing window. Wait, no, east facing window. It's an east facing window, so it doesn't get the most light, especially with the curtains kind of filtering, but it seems like it's pretty happy, so I'm happy about that. And like I said, it's putting out new growth, and the new growth is getting more mature. So I'm very, very happy with this plant, and I just wanted to share with you guys this beautiful new leaf. So next up, I wanted to switch over to this guy. This is my Monstera Adansonii mint variegated. And this one, I know you guys watched me unbox. I unboxed it in my plant dealer box from last month. And this is not a plant that I ever like sought to own or like specifically was on a hunt for, but I'm kind of in love with it. Like, it has the coolest leaves. I really like, not necessarily the veining, but like almost the pleating in between all of the fenestrations. Like, if you can see it, especially on this leaf, it has some really cool, like almost pleats. And this one's a little bit less mature, but that's to be expected. This was from a cutting. And you can see a little bit of that minty variegation. It's kind of difficult to see on camera. I know it, like down here is kind of where a lot of it is. So that's right there. Oh, that's a little bit better. Okay, so you guys can see that a little bit better now. But that is the variegation on this Adansonii mint. And I do have a just plain green form Adansonii. It's doing pretty well. I think it actually has spider mites, or hopefully it won't anymore since I introduced the predatory mites, but it definitely did have spider mites. And I've just been kind of letting it do its own thing, and it seems pretty happy. So this one so far, is kind of doing the same thing. It seems to be about as easygoing. It's actually putting out, obviously, this new little leaf here, which I'm so happy about. I was a little bit worried about, again, where it is. It's actually over behind the camera over here on a shelf that's kind of offset from a west-facing window. So it does get a good amount of light in the evenings, but like throughout the day, it doesn't get a whole ton of light. And it doesn't seem to be upset about that. It seems like it's actually liking where I have it. So I'm excited to see kind of how it develops. And this one especially, I'm really interested to see what the variegation looks like. If you guys don't know, variegated plants typically increase their variegation in higher light conditions. But the higher light the plant's getting, the more variegation there's going to be on the leaves. So I'm interested to see how variegated this leaf is. And that's kind of going to be my guide as to whether or not I'm going to be moving this plant somewhere with more light or keeping it about where it is for now. But yeah, I just wanted to share that new leaf with you guys. I'm so excited to have this plant growing for me. And again, that's my Monstera Adansonii mint. So next up is going to be this Philodendron fuzzy petiole. You guys would have watched me repot this into pon in this video here. And as you can see, it is doing pretty well. It does have a few leaves that were already kind of browning off when I repotted it, and they haven't dropped yet. They're still maintaining. And actually this caterpillar right here had not budged in ages before I repotted it, and actually now looks like it's about to pop out a new leaf. And I'll kind of get closer for you there. But actually the caterpillar has developed further. The leaf is actually poking out. So that is a really, really good sign to me that this plant is happy where it is. It's getting a lot of nutrients, enough to develop from its roots, and enough water to develop from its roots. So it means its roots are happy. And actually, I never thought that I was going to be a glass vessel person. I really want to blame this on You Don't Even Grow Here and on Planned Parenthood, because I usually like very pretty plant pots that are colorful, jewel toned, or white, and just kind of very nice, kind of clean looking pots. And then I saw their glass vessels, and getting to watch the roots grow, and that kind of won me over, is just getting to watch my roots grow on a plant. And this one in particular, this side, has so much new root growth, and I'm trying to see, like this up here is a whole new root, and this one over here is, again, there we go, a whole new root. And it's just little fuzzy roots that are growing, and that's a really good sign to me, because those are the ones that were touching the side. So if those are growing and those are happy, there's probably a lot more growth going on in the pond where I can't see. But I'm just really happy that this one's finally growing for me and seems to be doing well. I was getting a little bit worried about it before, as you guys know, especially with it just kind of not doing a whole lot. And it was just kind of losing leaves one by one, not growing, just not doing well. And I think I actually talked about this in my last video, which again, I will link here for you, that was about all your plants' red flags. This one had so many red flags and I was ignoring it. So now that I have taken care of the problem and addressed it, it seems like it is doing a whole lot better. And I'm very, very excited to let you guys know that my Philodendron fuzzy petiole is much happier and about to put out a new leaf. So next up on my favorites list for the month of April is this Begonia Begonia looking glass. I keep on wanting to call it frosty mirror. This is my Begonia looking glass, and I don't know if you guys know, I don't know if you can tell from, a lot of the kind of footage or just pictures you guys might have seen of this room. I am a book nerd. I'm a huge book nerd. I love to read. And actually, I am looking for book recommendations. So if you guys have any, leave them down below for me. I usually go for fantasy. For me, reading is kind of an escapism type thing. So I don't really want to read like real world stuff or anything that's like too realistic, if that makes sense. One of my favorite genres is fairy tale retellings. And I recently read a book, and this is gonna be a little bit of a tangent, I'm sorry, but I recently read a book that was kind of a fairy tale retelling, a little bit of like Snow White, a little bit of, I think it's a little bit of Cinderella. Like there's a lot of like different kind of fairy tale influences in it. It's called Stain. It was a really, really good book. It's actually, I think it was by E.G. Howard. Usually I'm really bad with names, so if that's correct, I'm gonna be very impressed with myself. I'll leave the name on the screen though. And it's a really great book. Like I said, it's a fairy tale retelling, and for whatever reason, this Begonia makes me think of that book. And I think it's because of the kind of Alice Through the Looking Glass kind of mixed with a little bit of like Snow White and the mirrored, like that kind of vibes. I mean, the backs are this beautiful, beautiful red. And as you guys can see, actually, let me just turn the whole thing around because it's facing kind of one direction. These backs are absolutely gorgeous. And then the front is so, so pretty. I'm not sure, honestly, that I've ever seen a plant with leaves this silvery. Like my Begonia Sinbad has like really silvery leaves. They're very shiny, shimmery, really pretty. But like this plant straight up has just silver leaves, and it's so incredible, and it is like really sparkly. I don't even know how to describe it to you guys other than just beautiful. And the leaves are getting obviously really big, and this one actually stands over in the corner again in that east facing window, and it seems to be really happy. It's putting out new leaves for me, which I'm very excited by. It is a begonia, so it does like a little bit of water, and I actually was not in the house. I wasn't out of town, but I wasn't staying here for the past weekend due to some family stuff. And this one got a little dry, so it does have some leaves that are crisping up just a smidgen. But because it is a begonia, it also grows really fast, and already I'm seeing a bunch of new leaves coming out, and it doesn't seem to be suffering at all. This is one that if you are somebody who's interested in begonias, I absolutely recommend. It is such a beautiful plant, such an easy grower, and again, just like look at the size of these leaves compared to my hands. That is huge. I don't have small hands, guys, so like the fact that this begonia is about as big as my hands now that's massive. So I really am just kind of taken by this plant, and I hope you guys are too. I never really considered myself to be a begonia person, and I did get the Begonia Sinbad because of wild fern. I think you guys probably have heard me mention that, and it's a gorgeous plant. I don't regret it at all. But this one was kind of an impulse buy. I just kind of wanted plants that looked like, had obviously the cane begonia growth structure. I'm more into cane begonias as far as I can tell, but that didn't have like the maculata spotting, because you know there's a lot of different begonias that look a lot like immaculata that aren't immaculata. I think it's because the maculata is probably the ones that kind of started it all, if I remember correctly. But this plant, there we go. That one was a little stuck in the growth there. But this plant doesn't look like that at all. I mean, obviously it has the red backs, but the fronts just don't look anything like Immaculata. Again, with that silvery shimmer and that dark veining. This is just such a gorgeous plant, and I can't recommend it highly enough. And I obviously can't stop talking about it. So definitely on my list of April favorites. All right, and next up on my list for this month has been my Rhipsalis Paradoxa. This is such a cool little jungle cacti. I don't really have a whole ton of jungle cacti in my collection. I did actually unbox this one on camera for you guys because I was adding to my Rhipsalis collection and I wanted to show you. And this guy has been consistently putting out some new growth. I don't know that this is all new since I've gotten it, but it's all definitely new growth for sure. Like this whole vine here, or this whole segment here, is new growth. This whole segment is new growth. There's a few new kind of green tips over on this side. And that is really exciting because this is one that will trail if you let it. So I am hoping that as that new growth comes in and as it starts, you know, kind of developing longer vines, it will start trailing for me. It is actually putting out some aerial roots, which is kind of interesting. I wasn't really expecting that. I know that it obviously can, but I didn't realize that it would. So that's kind of cool. But this one is actually sitting on my new like plant space bookshelf situation that I put up on one of my last videos as well. I will try to link that one too. And it's pretty close to my, oh, what is it? Sansi. There we go. Sansi grow light. And because it's pretty close, I think it's getting the amount of light that it actually needs, which is really exciting. And I think that might be why it's growing so well. So I am really excited about this one. I'm excited for it to start vining and to become a larger plant. I don't know how fast of a grower it will be, or if it's one that kind of inches its way along, but so far it looks like it is still growing pretty well. And I'm really happy to have this little Rhipsalis Paradoxa in my collection. Okay, and the last plant that is on my favorites list for April is one you guys are probably gonna recognize. This is my Philodendron Gloriosum, and she is giant. Let me see if I can actually get her all in the frame here. So So this is my Gloriosum. I think these spots here, if you see them, are from underwatering. She's actually a lot thirstier of a plant than I realized, so pardon me for that. But this is her newest leaf, and I am absolutely obsessed. This is a Philodendron Gloriosum zebra. So she does have really, really prominent veining, goes almost all the way to the edges of the leaves. And this leaf is a huge difference between her last most recent leaf, which is this one. And I think this one got a little too much light, which is why it developed so strangely. The lobes are like kind of spread. She looks like really wonky, honestly. And she's very short and kind of chubby. This is a much more typical Gloriosum leaf, has more of that heart shape. It is a little bit longer, but I am just absolutely obsessed with this plant and this new leaf. She is in actually my bedroom. She's in an east-facing window right now, and she does get a fair amount of humidity from like showers and things like that. And I think so far she's really enjoying it. Actually, she's pushing out a new leaf right now, or I guess is kind of getting ready to anyways. But this caterpillar here is bright pink, and it's so pretty. And she was trying to push that out almost before she even like finished with this leaf. She's intent on putting out some growth, and I am really, really happy about it. I'm hopeful that if I keep on top of this plant, which I do intend to do, that she will continue to grow and stop dropping leaves. I think for her, most of her requirements are just going to be more frequent watering, which I am trying to kind of keep an eye on. So right now, actually, she's probably about due. Yeah, she's about due for a watering today, so I'll probably try to get onto that. Get dirt under my nails. But this is my Gloriosum, and I am absolutely just in awe of how gorgeous this leaf is. All right, and that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed getting to see some of the really exciting updates and some of my favorite updates from the month of April. I know I'm really impressed with some of the growth my plants have put out as we're getting into spring/summer. Here in Florida, it's more like summer, but I know my plants are probably appreciating the seasonal change, and I think it shows based on the leaves that they put out. But that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave me a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below and let me know what some of your favorites have been over the past month. I am always looking for some new plants to add to my wish list. And if you hit that subscribe button down there, I would be so grateful. I would love to see you guys around more often. I do post new videos once a week, so you guys will see me as well. But I think that's it for today. Thanks so much. Bye.